products from Michigan and the rest of the United States play a significant role in lowering the cost of living in Mexico and elsewhere. In other words, agricultural exports are a substantial product from Michigan, and agricultural employment in Michigan increased by about 30% in the last decade. Agreed that it's small, and I agree that if you're going to increase agricultural employment, bigger tractors, more fertilizer and stuff are what you're going to use rather than hiring a lot more men and women to work on farms. Nevertheless, agriculture is one of the successful components of Michigan's current economic situation. And finally, I mentioned Southwest Michigan could be promoted as an extension of the greater Chicago metropolitan area. You look at the state of New Hampshire. It's grown rapidly recently, not because they have beautiful mountains there, but because the Boston metropolitan area has extended into the seacoast area of New Hampshire. There were those Pennsylvania Dutch cities in eastern Pennsylvania that were on the decline for decades. They have grown substantially in recent years because they're very close to a growing New York, New Jersey metropolitan area. And the one part of West Virginia that has grown in recent years have been those counties in the Panhandle that are adjoining the Washington and Baltimore metropolitan areas. We've got commuter rail that goes to Michigan's doorstep in Michigan City, Indiana. One can imagine promoting Southwest Michigan as a place for people from the Chicago metropolitan area to either live if they're working on that side of Chicago, or perhaps to have homes there that they would retire to. So the extension of the Chicago metropolitan area into Michigan is another way of stimulating economic growth and perhaps population growth in the state of Michigan. I'm stopping. I would be happy to answer any questions or comments, and I'd appreciate it if you'd correct some of my confusion. Thank you.
This is just a prediction. How long do you think it would take for some of these things that you're talking about to play when we see there's growth? Are we looking at another census from now, 2 censuses from now? Like, would it be something that we can tangibly set our sights on, or is this very long-term changes in our economic and population?
One thing that may be good news in a time of when there's a lot of bad news is that most of our predictions have been wrong. No one predicted the baby boom after World War II. No one predicted all the prosperity that occurred after World War II. They thought we'd go back into the Depression. I don't know. Some things are very slow to change, and other things change rapidly. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to see women typically having 3 or 4 children as they did during the baby boom. We have set in motion lots of things that are reducing mortality, and I think we'll continue those. And the one big unknown is with energy. My friends in the automobile industry keep telling me that we're going to see very effective batteries pretty soon, and things will change when that occurs, but I have heard that story before. So I don't know how we make predictions about whether things will change rapidly. We know other things are likely to happen. We have fewer elementary and secondary children on the way in Michigan. That population has reached a peak. Does that mean we're going to need fewer school teachers? Probably so. And the college-age population is just about at a peak now. So that's something else to take into account. But I don't know, agricultural growth seems to be well underway. I'd be surprised if it changed, but it could.
You think taxing pensions is going to encourage people to remain?
Do I think that?
And remain in Michigan and retire in Michigan? Taxing state pensions?
Taxing state pensions. Florida has no income tax, and we do lose older migrants to Florida. I think most people take taxes into account, but it's one of very many factors that people take into account. And Michigan, by Constitution, has a fairly low tax rate, income tax rate. But I'm sure that there are some people who would be on the edge, and if they can move to Florida and not pay income tax, that would push them to move to Florida. The one thing about getting older people to come to Michigan is that they bring Social Security checks and federal Medicare checks with them. If we can convince 100,000 elderly people to come to Michigan, they will bring a lot with them, and they will not use the costly prisons or the schools. So,
In your presentation, you talked about various areas of the state. Are those classified as communities of interest, or how do you define the communities of interest? Is that a term that in your area?
no, we use, or at least most demographers use, metropolitan areas. We use counties and cities, and then the Census Bureau since 1940 has created these metropolitan areas, which are counties centered around one large city. And there's great debate about how you should draw them. Should Muskegon and Grand Rapids be in one metropolitan area as they were for a while? Should Holland and Grand Rapids be in one metropolitan area as they used to be, or should they be split apart? And people in marketing typically want them split apart so they can say they have the radio station that is most listened to in their metropolitan area. Monroe is a new metropolitan area, but it's clearly linked to Toledo and Detroit in important ways.
So demographers don't use the term communities of interest?
Seldom communities of interest. They seldom use that term. Yes.
This past decade was the first and only one in our 170 years as a state where we actually lost population.
Yes.
In 2020, do you think it's going to reverse, or would you think we might continue to lose population?
If you ask me, do we have a population now that is larger than when the census was taken last year, I would say we probably have a smaller population than we had then. So I think it would take a lot of, well, it would take some immigration from abroad, some migration from the rest of the United States to get population growth in the state of Michigan. I think that's a challenge. I personally think the benefits of population growth outweigh the liabilities, but there are two sides to that story, and I think population growth will primarily occur if we have job growth in Michigan. Retirement growth is possible. In other words, retirees come first, but I'm not sure. Right now, though, I think it's not wise to leave Michigan since there aren't many places that have much in the line of an economic boom to attract workers. Great.
Well,
Please join me in thanking
Thank you.
Professor
Thank you
Farley.
very much.
That was a very sobering and yet in some ways optimistic message about the census numbers and how they affect Michigan. Please accept this Wolverine Caucus pen as a show of our esteemed appreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope that you will there is something optimistic. There are resources here in Michigan, both human resources and other resources. I hope that we'll be able to capitalize upon those resources. And thank you very much for the pen. I have my Detroit pen on now, but on my way home, I'll wear my Michigan
Wolverine
pen.
pen. All right.
Thanks.
And we look forward to seeing all of you on June 8th when we'll be talking about the film industry in Michigan, or what used to be the film industry in Michigan. So, and we will be in touch with the location of that forum. It will be a special forum and one with a beautiful video presentation. So thank you and have a wonderful spring.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I couldn't remember the Latin term for the.
Oh,
And she,
locum.
She knew. She, yeah. Oh, yeah, I know what it is. Boom. She knows.
Yep.
Hello, I always see you across the room, and I realize now. It's so nice to meet you. I was like, that was your best for? I really thought that. You don't wear it on a t-shirt? No, I understand.
Thank you.
come.
I'm all signed up now, but.
We didn't sign up, we're waiting to see.
No, it was paper week. No, I got rained out last year.
We might go off the weather.
Okay. I'll look for you. Okay.
Oh, it was an awful weekend. Yeah, it was raining.
Makes no never mind. You like going on?
Good. Excellent. Good.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was good to have a nice little.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll see you guys.
Actually, we gotta do making the seniors pay for seniors.
It's really good friends with someone I went to college with. Do you remember that little house that I lived in all summer? It was behind the swimming place. They just took cars in and out of it. It was fun.
401ks.
Where all the boys got to yep. That house. Yep.
What about Ross? What about
They're
Ross
really good
Diaries?
friends growing up.
We drove to
Yep,
seven.
I know. It is a
State
small
and
world.
Texas, Ross Diaries.
Well, good to see you.
Why couldn't they? Take the
Are
Texas.
you ever
Oh,
gonna
you know, take Ross, okay.
Okay, there's only been one. Oh my gosh, I have to respond to that. I was going to, and so I packed my gym bag, my yoga bag, so you can yoga and so I packed it. I can't Sunday night for like my training to the church portion.
I mean, obviously DC
So I had a top, yoga mat, all that. And so no, I moved to Census.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I got out. Live here now.
That's good to know.
It's fun, but there's other holes and stuff that you never take Harvard Yard. Like, I use a break to make sure that was awful. So we got to just so I had to run home, but I did something in the office and cool cities like 5 bag. It wasn't. It was just
Good.
I woke up with a yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just like, seriously, I live on my gym bag, and this is the one thing I'm always here for. That day.
There's this, the old Marine.
I think it
already is.
Well, I
Close.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm very conscious about that.
Well, it went pretty well. It was a pretty good turn. So, we'll see you there.
Yeah, I'll be there.
I'm sure it'll be nice. Yeah. All right. Great to see you.
Great meeting you.
Congrats on the house. When we bought our house, we spent like at least $100 every weekend at the hardware store. So good luck with that.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
all the little things that you didn't know you needed.